Violent crackdowns are taking place across universities in the United States. Hundreds of students have been detained, and academics have been handcuffed simply for speaking out against Israel's devastating war on Gaza, which has killed more than 34,000 Palestinians. Is this the freedom of expression the US has been preaching about? Recently, colleges across the country have become sites of mass protests. Students are demanding Washington cut off military and financial aid, and their universities cut ties with Israel. Generally speaking, these protests have neither been violent nor chaotic. They have been setting up pro-Palestinian encampments on outdoor lawns of campuses where they pay a lot of money to attend. But tensions started to escalate when universities like Columbia decided to call in police in riot gear to break up the tents and make violent arrests. However, I don't want to blame the heads of universities, since they could risk their own careers by being lenient with anti-Israel protests. Just a few months ago, the presidents of Pennsylvania, Harvard, and MIT were pressured to resign by donors and politicians for their poor handling of protesting students. What confuses me, though, is that the mainstream media and politicians were not as sympathetic to these protests as they were to protests elsewhere.
The activists, these young people, to see what a possible potential force for change they could be.
For 15 weeks, the protesters in Hong Kong have sent a stirring message to the rest of the world about the dreams of freedom and justice can never be extinguished by injustice and intimidation.
Why can't they get a hold of this situation?
If there's a crime being committed in a private home, the police have every right to go into the home to stop the imminent crime being committed.
I mean, wow, what happened in Hong Kong a few years ago was more violent and lawless compared to what's happening today in the US. Yet the US sympathizers for those mobs in Hong Kong are now taking quite a hardline stance on protesters back home.
As Colombia has allowed these lawless agitators and radicals to take over, the virus of anti-Semitism has spread across other campuses.
You condemn the anti-Semitic protests on college campuses.
I condemn the anti-Semitic protests. That's why I've set up a program to deal with that.
Anti-Semitism. It is a convenient label to defame the mostly peace-demanding students and to justify their crackdowns to silence any voices against Uncle Sam's favorite ally in the Middle East. Afraid to be targeted by universities, authorities, and pro-Israel groups, many of the protesters are wearing masks to protect their privacy. Even so, they could still face doxing, suspension, and arrests for speaking against the country's support for Israel. The protests are spreading as we speak, as are the numbers of students arrested. Maybe questioning Israel is one of the many examples that do not fit into the American definition of free speech.